Member, and thank you very much for that, and thank you for also reminding us, if we needed any reminding, that we may talk a lot about strategy and policy and all the rest of it, but there's a very human dimension to these issues that is worth bearing in mind. So thank you for those comments. It's also a conversation, I suspect, that we would not have had in any fashion 10 years ago, which is an interesting comment as well. When I was looking at the agenda, it struck me, maybe I'm addicted to the old geopolitics of Turkey, I don't know, rather than the new. The thing that doesn't appear on here, of course, is Europe. Maybe that's intentional. And maybe it's a good idea. But I have a feeling that when we talk about this issue, among others, about Turkey and Eurasia, Turkey and Russia, Turkey and energy security, Turkey and Armenia, that inevitably this question of Europe and what Turkey is doing or not doing, and vice versa with Europe, comes back into it. And so I just maybe very briefly, if I could just get a quick reaction to this from the panel, and then we'll go to the audience, on this question of neighborhoods and neighborhood policies. Suat earlier used this vocabulary to describe Turkey's sort of the new look in Turkish foreign policy towards the neighborhood. Well, of course, the European Union uses that same terminology and is striving to develop a policy in its neighborhood. Will these neighborhood policies be compatible? I mean, they may be complementary. That's one future. We hope that's the one that we see. But it's not entirely clear. It's not entirely clear. And so I put that out there as one big strategic question. Then another one you may come back to at some point, if you care to, is again Russia. I mean, this is a big, weighty question. Where Russia is going, the implications of a more assertive Russia, whether a more competitive relationship with the West or not. Turkey is one of the key stakeholders in that. And it would be interesting to hear now or in some point in our discussion about what is Turkey's perception of where Russia is going? What is Turkey's preferred outcome about that? And what would be the implications of a more competitive relationship between Russia and the West that this time around is likely to be played out in Turkey's neighborhood? So, I mean, if one or the other of you would like to, Beth, I know you have to leave shortly, would like to pick up on one or two of those, I'd be grateful, and then we can go to the audience.
Let me just make a quick comment on your Europe question. I think it is interesting that Europe isn't on the agenda, but that's okay because it's okay for me because that goes with my thesis that Turkey is a leader in the region and should think of itself as a leader in the region and not as a country on the edge of Europe, but rather as in the center of a region that matters. But the other thing I think about in terms of Turkey and Europe, usually when we say Turkey and Europe, we think EU. I actually think of NATO and Partnership for Peace, and that again puts Turkey in the middle of the discussion because NATO's over here and Partnership for Peace is over here, and Turkey's in the middle of that. So the overlays between the European Union kinds of issues and the NATO kinds of issues where Turkey is, I think, is very important. One last point, and it goes to the leadership role and the model leadership role Turkey can play in the model it represents, I believe, to so many of the countries in the former Soviet Union, Russia included, and that is that Turkey decided as part of its prospect for Europe to make a tremendous number of changes in its legislation and in the way civil society works and operates and the kind of openness that our colleague here talked about. And it did all of this because it wanted to. It did all this because it was its goal. Some of it was under the tutelage, so we say, of some of the European Union countries. But it nevertheless means that Turkey is in a position to demonstrate how these principles work and how well they work in a country like Turkey, and how much that is a model for countries further east and north.
Anyone else on that one?
Well, I think Turkey and Turkish people are sick and tired of being at the edge of some continent. They want to be at the table first and in the middle of the issues, and that's the new face of Turkey's identity and vision for the future. And Turkey as being, as mentioned several times this morning, as being the G20 country and sixth biggest economy in Europe, I think has a lot to play in its region and surrounding regions, actually. And why EU and Europe is out of the agenda here, I'm just going to say that I think it's up to the Europe now to decide, what to do. Are they just want to be, a European, after this Euro crisis and financial crisis, to be more like economic union and not to project any, soft power and values that Turkey cherish, or they want to be a global actor. It's up to them to decide on this. And if they decide on the second letter part, or to become a much active, to play more active role in the world, then they have no other choice but appreciating Turkey's membership. And it's up to them, and I think they deserve a time to, digest on these issues and to reflect and act. But, certainly they are almost, losing, Turkish public, I would say, because Turkish public people are sick and tired of, being subject to double standards when they see, for instance, Eurasia moving and finishing 2/3 of their, negotiation chapters, and Turkey being left and all suspended chapters because of Cyprus issue. Well, if they want to just hijack, whole Turkey's European process with 600,000 Greek Cypriots, then it's up to them to decide. But Turkey is perfectly fine. Our second president used to say, "New world establishes," and Turkey, deserves and takes rightful place in that world. It's up to Europe, and we are very self-confident in this. And personally speaking, I would like to be in the position of Norway. At the end of the day, with my own decision, I will decide whether I would like to be in Europe or not, and whether it will serve my interests. And I'm just going to say that about Russia, is Turkey is happy where Russia is heading for? I think it's not very much clear that where Russia is heading. I think Turkey is not happy to see Russia invading Georgia. That was our nightmare scenario. And we were, frankly speaking, very upset about the Georgian president's, not letting us, clearly what was happening. And I know an anecdote from the first hand. I heard this from Foreign Minister the night before the attack, actually, or the day. A couple of hours later, Russia invaded Georgia, but we were having all the evidences and all these reports coming in that something to happen. And our Prime Minister calls Saakashvili and asks, "How is the situation?" And he replies like, "Everything is under control. We are winning." It doesn't make sense. It makes Turkey angry after all investments towards Georgian independence and, creating this so-called Benelux kind of model for the South Caucasus. That this act puts into jeopardy, actually, and we are not happy with that kind of attitude, of course. But we are very happy to see Europe cooperating and signing the START agreement and other defense and other cooperative mechanisms, and we would like to see more participatory democracy in Russia as well.